Welcome to the next episode of Brandland. I am your host, Garrett Justice, and I am joined by Rachel Hofstetter today, who's the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer at Chatbooks. Rachel, how are you doing?
I'm good. Hey, Garrett.
It's so great to have you on the show today. Super excited to dive in and talk about our subject today. It's great to connect with an awesome, well-known marketing leader here in the Utah area, close to where we are for Lucid. So thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
Cool. Well, before we jump into our topic today, I'd love to make sure that our listeners have a little bit more understanding of your background and what Chatbooks does. Could you give us the quick overview?
Yeah, so my background in particular has been a meandering path. I started out in magazines in New York City, was a magazine editor at places like the Oprah magazine, and I loved finding great stories and sharing those with people. And so ended up writing a book that came out from Penguin Random House about how to start a business. Got the itch, started a business of my own called Guesterly that was acquired by Chatbooks in 2015. And then I joined as Chief Marketing Officer. And so since then, I've been running all things marketing, demand and brand at Chatbooks. And Chatbooks is a super easy, ridiculously easy, total plug here, ridiculously easy way to make photo books and photo products from your phone. It's especially great for parents who want to get all those cute little pictures of their kids off of their phones so their kids can actually see them. So that's what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Love it. Awesome. And such an awesome tool for while so many of us are kind of sitting around trying to figure out what to do during quarantine and social distancing right now is to go create a chat book, right? So awesome.
Do that thing you've had on your list forever. I feel like that's what we're all doing during social distancing times.
Yeah. That's right. Well, there you go. There's the plug. Go check it out if you haven't. And Rachel, I'm super excited to dive into our topic today because of all of the awesome brands that you've been able to work for and with throughout your career. I mean, some of those that you mentioned are just huge, very well-known brands, right? And so as we dive into our topic today, it's really around this idea of how you can build and evolve your brand while scaling your company. And how do you go about doing that? I think it's a really interesting topic that a lot of marketers, whether they're at a small company or a medium-sized company, this is a topic that's really applicable to all of us because we should be constantly building and evolving our brands as the markets change, as customers change, as their products change. And so that is difficult to learn how to do, especially to do while still maintaining consistency. So with that, you ready to jump into the questions today?
Let's do it.
Okay. So first, let's just start at the basics. When you're building a brand, where should you really start? What do you think?
So this is probably the deepest, hardest work you'll do. And I want to really encourage people to put the time into this when they're starting a company, or if you're coming onto a company, or you just feel like, hey, we need to look at this again, is really dig into your why. What's the mission? And both what is the mission of the brand, but even more than that, what's the mission of the company? Why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you spending your precious, time on earth, to be honest, doing this thing, right? And you need to be able to really answer that intrinsically, and then have the rest of your company on board with it. And so you can solve that why, with your product and with your brand. And by the way, your product should solve that why too. Like if your product itself isn't helping people do that thing, then you're just creating a brand around nothing. Yeah. But dig into your why. And so for us at Chatbooks, our mission is to strengthen families. And I'll be honest, that through line was there the whole entire time. But we said it in slightly different ways over the years. And it wasn't until last year, so 2019, where we said, hey, we have to get very, very crisp and precise on this. And it was a company-wide effort led out by the marketing team with the executive team. We even brought our board members along for it. And where we ended up again was exactly the same idea that we'd had for the whole time of the company, but we were just saying it in the very precise words that we wanted to say it. And then we put it up on a big mural at our office that we haven't seen in a long time, but it's a beautiful mural. It's on our packaging. And really, I come back to it at least once a day with everything we do with our brand. Yeah. So does this thing over here tie into our brand? Does this tie into our brand? What should our voice be over here in this exact thing? What should we do with our nonprofit strategy over here? We come back to it countless times. So I would say don't be afraid to put the effort into that. It was probably a 4 to 5 month effort with a decent amount of time and meetings to get, again, super aligned. We had to look at lots of different things.
Hmm.
So again, investment.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it is an investment for that much time for those few words, but it's worth it in the end when it can kind of be strategy and guide a lot of the decisions that you do later on. One thing that stood out to me that you said that I really liked was, your product should fulfill that mission, but especially when you're a smaller company, right? It's just scratching the surface of what that potential mission or that goal or that vision is, right? And also, when you look at it the other way, that vision could probably be solved in many different ways by many different products, right? And so how is it that, those tie together, right? And I think that kind of leads us to the next question that we had is just around, once you've discovered and solidified that why or that mission, it seems like a lot of companies then move on to like some fundamental pillars or values, right? Which is going that one layer deeper. So how do you develop those and make sure that they connect and align and tie back to that mission?
Yeah, so our brand pillars, they're kind of like the translation between the mission and how we come out and show up in the world every day throughout all of our brand channels, all of our brand touch points. And those brand pillars it can evolve more over the years, I think, even though they're very, you know, integral to what you're doing, they do evolve. And also as a marketer, you should be on the lookout for those, right? And whatever the climate is or whatever things are happening, you might say, oh, that really works. That's it. That's one of them. So for example, ours at Chatbooks we have a real founder voice, right? We were started by a real couple, a real woman, Vanessa, who's very actively involved in the company. She's part of our brand persona, our brand voice. So that's one of them. And then along those lines, from the beginning, we've been a community by moms for moms. And so we are real people talking to real people, sometimes about photo books, but about many other things. And again, like we have a social media team that's there talking person to person all day long. And then our third one really evolved out of an ad campaign we did in 2016. It was an ad campaign that featured, kind of a mom running around taking care of life. We call her Real Mom internally at Chatbooks. And that ad definitely hit a moment, hit a certain vibe, very, very popular, over 100 million views. And so we call that our voice of Real Mom. And she's fun, she cares about her family, and she really needs things to be easy. And so when we say voice of Real Mom, it's really hearkening those three things: fun, easy, family. And so those are our current three brand pillars. But again, they continue to evolve a little bit, and we're opportunistic, right? If something changes, then we can look at those and say, hey, maybe that one needs to evolve a bit.
Yeah, I love that. And you know what really stands out to me about that too is it seems like all of those brand pillars are first true, right? They're true at who your company is as a core, at the core. It's not necessarily this is what our customers want, so we're going to try to be this thing that we're actually not, right? And I think that that's a lot of times where marketers get caught up in this is customer research is so important in everything that we do. But when developing that brand, it's so important to first start with, like you said, the why and who are we at our core, and how can we then be real and transparent about who we are, and the way we describe who we are might just evolve over time. Is that right?
You articulated that so well. And on that note, it's not that we came out of the gate with all of these on day one. These are things that we looked around, saw that were happening and that were who we were, and then we articulate them.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit of a circular process. I should also note that we have product pillars that are a little different too. Like our product pillars are beyond easy, super affordable, great quality, amazing service. So you can see those tied directly to the things we sell.
Yeah.
And they play into the brand too, of course, but they are a little different, like the brand of who we are as a brand versus who we are as a product.
Yeah, it's more how you want to be experienced and how that ties into then what's the way that we say things and what's the way that people hear from us, right? So
Experience.
total sense. Yeah, it's good. So tell me then, are these pillars, these product and brand pillars, guiding all of the marketing that your company is doing? Is there anything that kind of falls outside of that at any time that don't really ladder up to or tie back to one of those pillars and that mission?
Everything, I would say we try to ladder up to those. So even our briefs that we use internally for all creative work, each one of them says, hey, voice of real mom, fun, easy family. And you have to say where it ranks on those 3 words. So like, hey, this is going to be all about easy, for example, and, very light on family, very light on fun, or very high on fun, light on family. So we're always pulling that through. We have the same line like, hey, how are we going to use the voice of our founder here? How are we going to use community here? So every single thing we do, we at least consider all of those questions. And you might say, hey, this is an email that your payment method on file has been declined. So you know what, we're not going to bring in the founder voice. We're not going to bring community. We're not going to bring in any fun, right? It's just, but we are going to make sure at least that it's easy for you to update your payment method. And other things might be so brand, right? It might be all about an initiative our founder is launching or something like that, or a community initiative. So we do run those through, like every single thing we do, you kind of have to run through that mental checklist and see. And in very few situations would you not use any of those.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great, like, tangible example of just adding those pillars on the briefs that you do. I love that idea, so that you can just check and kind of see the trends over time and make sure that, I think that's just a good mental check for anyone who's writing content or putting stuff out there, to just make sure that it ties back. And it's just that constant reminder, which is so important for helping educate our teams across each of these missions and pillars that we develop for our brands, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of, if it doesn't connect to your brand pillars, why are we even doing it? Right.
Yeah.
We shouldn't. Somebody else should do that thing.
Yeah.
Like, we can only win and be helpful to people if we are who we uniquely are.
Yeah. Love that. Cool. Well, I think that kind of ties into the next question I have, is really about this evolution, right? And how is it that you evolve a brand over time while also still maintaining consistency while it's evolving? I think that's a challenge that a lot of marketers have. Should we be really true to certain things and never change? Or do we evolve and change over time? How do you think about that?
I think we have to evolve, right? If 2020 has showed us anything, our world just keeps changing, right? We have so many words and mindsets and new experiences this year alone. And if a brand isn't taking that on a day-to-day basis and evolving, it's kind of just lost all relevance to me as a consumer, to be honest. And so that's where having these pillars, and even above that, our mission, is really helpful. From brand pillars and product pillars, it's like, let's just keep coming back to those, whatever the 2020 flavor of that is. And the 2020 flavor can look a little different. And I'll hearken to our pillar about by moms for moms, our community pillar. And the more you can be human and real people, it's like, we're going through this in our own lives. So likely our community is going through this, but we can talk to them and find out and see what they're caring about right now. We've even done surveys and stuff with our community, like, hey, how are you feeling about things right now? How's childcare going? How's work from home life going? And use that to then engage with them more and talk to them about the issues and try to solve these issues. Or things like, we did rent relief for customers in July. And so, normally we'd give away things that are really fun, to be honest, like, hey, like, here, win this really fun trip or something like that. That doesn't feel right now, right? And I think it's something like 30% of people couldn't make a rent payment in July. So we had the really great opportunity to give away rent. And again, that is not what we would have done in 2019, but you evolve, you're human, you talk to people. And the more you're a real person talking to real people about what they're actually experiencing, I think that's how you evolve your brand.
Yeah, I think that's great. So when we're talking about evolution here, most of the time we're not talking about like throwing these pillars and mission statement out the window and starting over from scratch. We're talking about slight tweaks over time, and maybe other important, true, real personality traits from the org emerge that might eclipse something else. But usually it's just this gradual evolution over time. Is that how I'm understanding it?
Exactly. Megan, our amazing brand director, spent at Chatbooks 4.5 years. And that brand guide, probably there's one page in it or one word in it from the original brand guide, but it's never been all at once, right? It's a page here, a sentence here, change out an image here, change out a vibe here, update something here. And I think if you can think about it like that, like Megan's probably in that doc once a month, just evolving something as we continue to grow and as we continue to do it. But it always comes back to kind of the core, who we are, how do we want to show up in this world?
Love it. So then the second part of that question then is, yes, we're evolving and changing with the times. How do you maintain consistency across your team and across everything else that's going out there with this thing that's constantly evolving and changing a little bit?
Such a good question. So I think it's kind of like at the top level as a CMO, I'm like, great, we're evolving here. Like our brands hold us here. That being said, there's so many touch points across our world, from social media to every screen in the app, every screen on the website, every product that goes out, right? It is a massive, first of all, yes, you keep voice the same. And I think we do try to say that, and have all voice things go through a small group of people that are kind of always watching for that voice and how we do that. But it's a challenge to even just say like, hey, we are naming this, and it looks like this. And sometimes it feels like playing whack-a-mole, right? Like, I swear we changed that over there, but why is it showing up here? Or you'll see somebody writing about it in a way that you haven't talked about it in years. So we do use a brand guide. And then our product marketing team, anybody who writes copy, is definitely looking at that. That's one tip. So the brand guide helps. I would say the other thing that helps, to be honest, is we have a daily standing 9:30 meeting. And anybody who is creating something that's going out into the world, it goes through that meeting with a small group of people who see it all. And so a lot of things will be caught at that level. And, you just work things through. We have a great operations director who makes sure everything kind of gets a moment to walk through that meeting, show the thing, quick gut check. Is it on brand? Yes, no, or, oh, we don't say it that way anymore. Or can you try it like this? So there is kind of a small group of people that sees everything. That helps.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that as I've talked to other marketers out there, I mean, it's a common challenge that a lot of people have, which probably is why Lucidpress exists. We kind of try and help solve some of those pain points. But really, I think that what you said is common from what I hear from a lot. Is it's a lot about education internally. And so doing some of that internal marketing and having the right checks and balances in place, and helping people as part of that education, help them understand how important this is and get them bought in and understanding, and so that they can be advocates when they go out and create, or, are representatives on behalf of your brand, that they understand and they know the what and the why behind it,
Yeah. Clarity. You say things 77 times or whatever the saying is. And I think just understanding that you have to say things in different ways over, we'll say things verbally, we'll print them, we'll do it in Slack, and eventually you kind of get the new brand just in time for you to change it again. So
yeah, exactly. I think that internal education and internal marketing of your brand is, I think, one thing that a lot of marketers might overlook or might not realize is just a crucial key piece of their roles. I mean, would you agree? Has that been a big part of your job currently and in the past?
Internal marketing is something you don't think about when you become a CMO, to be honest. It's not normally the first thing you think about, but it ends up being a very important part of the role. And because you're creating the brand experience inside the company too, right? And that comes from everybody on the executive team and throughout the company as well. But again, it's a way to articulate and help people experience what the brand is for themselves. Like, we should all be living the brand at Chatbooks, not just pushing it out there into the world.
This is so awesome. This has been such a great conversation, Rachel. I really, really appreciate it. If, you've given so many great tips, but if you were just to kind of sum it all up and give just one tip or recommendation for those who are listening, who want to apply some of the principles we've talked about today, what would that recommendation be? What do you think that they should go and do? Where should they start?
So I'm a huge believer that it's very important to invest in this, who you are, and articulating that. But I would also say invest in it, get something that's good enough, and then take it out for a road test. Like, don't wait for the perfect alleluia moment. Just get something, start taking it out, using it, and then you can change it, right? Like, that's the great thing. There's nothing written that says you can't change it. It's like the US Constitution. You can amend it, you can change it. You don't have to amend it. You can literally just change it. So invest, but then get going. Don't get stuck in we need to make this absolutely perfect, because you'll continue to evolve. You'll evolve your mission. You'll evolve your brand pillars. So take the time and then evolve.
Love it. Such great tips. Really, really appreciate it. And so, Rachel, as we wrap up here today, I want to ask you one question that's just not related to our topic, but just more about the trends that you're seeing in the world of marketing. So, my question for you is, what's a commonly held belief in the world of marketing that you just disagree with?
All right. Well, I'm going to make a lot of software providers a little uneasy here, but I think all automation isn't great. Like too much automation is not a good thing. And it serves a great purpose. But in general, do things that don't scale too. Try doing things one-to-one first, see how they do. Some things are more powerful when they're done in a non-automated way, when it's a real human in there interacting, or we all have this goal of having an automated behemoth that sends the right message to the right person at the exact right time. And that's awesome. We shouldn't stop that, but don't underestimate the power of just a real human to a real human.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's such a great tip, especially as we all talk about keeping the customer core to what we're doing and meeting their needs. Sometimes too much automation can be at odds with that. So finding the right balance there, I think, is what's key. So excellent tip. Well, Rachel, this has been so great. Really appreciate you taking the time today. As we wrap up, if there's listeners who want to get in touch with you or learn more about Chatbooks or follow up with a question, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so Chatbooks is on Instagram. Chatbooks, I'm on Instagram, Rachel Hoffy1. You can find us all over there.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, you heard it. Thank you so much, Rachel. Really
Thanks,
appreciate you
Garrett.
taking the time. Have a great day.
Thanks.